Hey, I'm Bryan Fenley, and you have been a sports media podcast unlike any other. This is the On to Something podcast where we bring on folks in sports media and we throw out the superficial. And we're all about getting into the human side of our guests to really understand what drives them and things that go beyond the surface as far as understanding what powers them. And we have those hard hitting, heartfelt conversations. My guest today is Eric Rutledge. He is a course director at Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University. He is also a director of PGA Tour Live. And this conversation was a whole lot of fun. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe. A lot of content coming through. You're not going to want to miss it, including this conversation that gets underway right now. Well, his life has been one fairway hit, one green hit in regulation after another. It's Eric Rutledge. He is course director, Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University. But wait, there's more. He is also director at PGA Tour Live, doing great work over there with the PGA Tour and their boundless number of streams and content they have on ESPN Plus. He's also a father, so he is a busy man, and he is joining me on the On to Something podcast. I'm Bryan Fenley with Tennis Channel, Fox Sports Radio, and a golf broadcaster. Eric, I've had a bunch of your colleagues on, and it's your time to shine, and I couldn't be more excited. Appreciate you doing this.
Oh, thanks for having me, Brian. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've seen some of my colleagues and friends, more importantly, that you've had on your podcast and enjoyed them. And so I appreciate the time and look forward to talking to you for sure.
From getting to know more about you and your background, why is it that you strike me as an Ohio State football fan?
That would be incorrect, right? So born and raised Michigan Wolverine fan. Go blue all day long for sure. Hail to the victors, right? Uh, have a tremendous amount of respect for that rivalry, but we do have them the last couple of years, so I have that for at least 365 days. So yeah.
What happened the last time that you were on the golf course and you took out the driver?
Took out the driver the last time. Well, first thing I did was take my club head cover off, which is a Michigan Wolverine helmet for sure. So you know, you never quite know where it's going to go with my game right now. As you mentioned, I do have three kids, so I don't play as much as I used to play. I try to keep it in the fairway and then try to hit it again and try to hit it again, right? But can spray it a little bit. Working on a few things with my opening my stance a little bit and coming through more. So been driving the ball pretty well lately, but I need to play a little bit more as well to make it better.
What do your kids say about your golf game? What sort of advice might they have for you on that front?
Oh boy, that's a great question. So I've played a little bit with my 14-year-old, and my 11-year-old daughter is big into dance. So she'll watch that. We'll watch a lot of tournaments together. We'll watch the big tournaments, everything like that. So just kind of taking them to the range a little bit, but they don't give me a whole lot of pointers because they haven't really gotten into the game yet. But I think the biggest thing it would tell me is to continue being confident and calm as you go through. So that's going to help your game a lot better, right? So
Yeah, and so I notice, so with you talking right there, Eric, there's maybe some uneasiness when you're standing over the golf ball. But in quite the contrast, I should say, when you think about the way in which your career has taken off, there has been no uneasiness. You say you don't know where the golf ball is going when you hit it on the course. You know where you've wanted to go when it comes from a career standpoint from the beginning. That determination, that persistence, what did it look like at a grassroots level starting up?
So I always was interested in television for sure. I always would watch local sports. I would watch any sports I could back in the 80s, growing up, and late 70s and 80s growing up. And I was always enamored by everything that I saw. So I wanted to be on camera when I first started and got into college. And then I kind of saw the behind the scenes things, and that jumped out at me. I liked the directing pretty much right away as I got into college. Once I got I got my eyes on that. And then I quickly realized that I wanted to be a director. I wasn't as good as I thought, probably on air. So I looked at the behind the scenes and quickly knew. And then it kind of was a thing where I was really persistent because I then had a goal, right? So I started in local news when my last semester of college in 1995, and then about 5.5 years of doing that, directing and doing everything behind the scenes and understanding how a broadcast is put together. I was then ready for my next move, and I always think that I always wanted to challenge myself to get to the next spot, put myself in positions that weren't comfortable, and that's how I knew that I could start growing. And I try to tell my kids the same kind of thing. If you put yourself in the position where you're going to be nervous, and that's normal to be nervous, and put yourself in the position where you're uncomfortable, that's how you're going to grow. And so I was ready to get out of the cold of Michigan, late 2000s, sent around about 20 resumes, and really wanted to hear from Golf Channel in Orlando. And I heard from them right away. And then I was blessed to be there for 20 years, for sure.
And
So,
from there, it's led to obviously you staying in Florida, where Golf Channel was before it obviously moved back up to Connecticut. Eric Rutledge is with me, course director, Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University, and also director now at PGA Tour Live. So you started out thinking maybe on air would be the thing to do. Then you go behind the scenes. And with you working so much behind the scenes, even with that, what do you want people on the outside to know about what you've done, what they can see about you that you wish would come out more? Because obviously you are in production, but if given that opportunity to really be seen, what would you want people to know about you on that front?
I think, I think it's important. I enjoy doing what I'm doing now, teaching young students and trying to get in the industry. And what I try to teach them is the importance of kindness, the importance of relationships in this industry and in life, honestly. So I always wanted to make sure I was respectful when I'm on headset. I still want to make sure that I'm always respectful of others. I've been on the other end of not being respected on headset maybe when I was a little bit younger, but that taught me to understand the importance of being kind to others. Your relationships are so important. Your relationships are going to carry you through your career. And I've been very lucky to have people that believed in me early and continually through my career to give me the put me in the positions to succeed and then to also grow. So what I would want people to know about me and about what they will will help them succeed in this industry is to be kind. Uh, Relationships are so very important, not just starting the relationship, but fostering and growing that relationship. And those are all really important things. And then also treating yourself. Um, your branding is important. The way that you act towards others and your professionalism are very important. So I've tried to be consistent with all of that in my career. And I'm happy to say that I've made some great relationships and got to do some really cool things in my time in this industry.
That you have outward relationships. What about, Eric, the relationship with yourself and how
Mhm.
that has evolved and adapted over the years, in the way in which self-talk, how that's changed and how that's helped you, how that's helped you comb through challenges that the industry might have presented you as well?
Yeah, I think it's about confidence. It's about, like I said, putting yourself in those challenging positions to succeed, helping yourself grow. But I think it's always being positive with yourself and letting yourself know the self-talk that you have inside yourself that you can do it, believe in yourself. And I am constantly telling my children that I believe in them, that I'm proud of them, that I want them to know that, right? And I'm telling myself that as well. Uh, I think that is very important. And I've been dealt some things with my health over the last 9, 10 years as well, that I had a choice to either lay down on the mat or get up and continue fighting, and then also be positive with it. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, hard to say, in 2014. And I immediately figured that out at that point. That's not going to stop my career. I'm
Yeah.
going to succeed with it. And I'm going to continue being positive with it. And that mindset, I think, is I mean, it's everything when you're dealing with something like that, or you're trying to grow and succeed in your career. It's really important.
You've said, Eric, that your kids all your life, when you have had them by your side, how much of a boost do they give you when you think about their lives in you fighting for your own life through that process of getting better and working through that health challenge that you did not let stop you and get in your way ultimately?
Yeah, you said it right, Brian. They are my absolute everything. They're the reason I want to succeed. They're the reason I want to grow. They're the reason I'm going to be a better father and a better person. That's just point blank across the board, guaranteed, right? That's never going to change. I think them standing by my side, and they knew the basics of it, and they were pretty young. My oldest was 5 at the time, and we had just my ex-wife and I now we just had our third child, and 3 weeks prior. So it was a
Wow.
big learning experience. It was a time filled with fear, and what's the next step look like? Because I didn't know much about what my path would be at that point. Because I really honestly woke up with these symptoms and then was diagnosed with it 5 days later. I'm thankful I was diagnosed with it though. And that was my mindset. And my children are very protective, I think, of me, and they know that daddy deals with something, but I try not to. It's a very
Yeah.
invisible disease, right? So I make sure that I'm being honest with them. If there's times where when I'm struggling with something, I talk to them about it, and they're very supportive. They always have been to the level that they know about, you know. So um, I don't want to ever scare them with something that I have. I want them to know that you just keep going and you keep fighting no matter what, you know.
How did a hug, Eric, from them feel different post-diagnosis
Hmm.
in comparison to before?
I'm a pretty emotional person. I'm a hugger. I feel like when that happened, that diagnosis, it kind of opened my world a little bit more to say, okay, this life is too short to hold back from
Sure.
saying I love you, making sure that you're kind, not letting time pass. So I probably say to them when they're with me 30 times a day. And at
Oh,
times, they're getting a little bit older now, but at times they're like, Daddy, we know, right? But I just want them to know that. And it's really important to me that they know that. And the hugs to me now and then when they were newborns, when I was holding them, it's just everything. It's just everything. Yeah. Yeah.
without explicitly saying I love you from the kid's perspective, how do they, with their actions, Eric,
Hmm.
show you that they do?
Um, you know, they all have different ways. It's amazing because, with three of them, they have all had a very similar upbringing in the same household, but they all have so much differences in, their interests and also their emotions and everything like that. I can tell you, my 14-year-old Parker and my young son Brady, who will be 9 on Thursday, they are pretty emotionally they bring their emotions out a little bit more, or they'll just kind of come give you a hug and just give you a kiss on the cheek. And then they're not saying a word. They're just their
Wow.
actions. And my daughter, maybe a little bit more held back with her emotions, but that makes it even more special when she does come out with it. They're all very loving. All three of them are very loving, and but they just show it in a different way. And my daughter and I think now my I get very excited when I can have one-on-one time with them too, right? I make sure we get an hour or two together, just one of us, and then I'll be with my son tonight and take him to dinner for his birthday and be with him tonight. So those moments are really important to let them know that I'm here. I will never be anywhere else but here for you. So that's just really important to me. And they do show their emotions in a different way, but they have a ton of love inside of all three of them. Yeah, for sure.
Who was there for you, Eric, when you were a child?
My parents, I know that's a kind of probably a standard answer, but my parents in different ways. My mother was the one um, a little bit more of the quiet confidence, and I believe in you, I love you, I'm proud of you, with those words, which every child I think needs to hear, and then everyone needs to hear as they go through the life. I think it's important. My father wouldn't say it as much. He would show it in different ways, always coaching the baseball teams, right? Always taking us to the baseball games, and they were all very involved in that way. I was lucky to have parents that were very involved in my life. They still are. They're up in Michigan, but they're very involved and always have been. So I've been. I just have a lot of respect for the way that they were as parents. And then I had some aunts and uncles that were my uncle Joe, who lives in Ponte Vedra now, but was in St. Louis for a long time, very successful. He was always somebody that I looked at, that I could go to these older figures in my life that were in my family, but I could count on them for words of advice. And I know it was some of the biggest times in my life when I needed some advice, I would go straight there. I'd go to my parents first, but then I would go to other family members, and they would help pull me through with really honest, good advice. So
What were those words to live by that your parents might have told you when you were a child that even to this day you feel like is so present in your heart, in your life, and that you live by and will for your whole life?
yeah, I think like I said, my mother was very outward with her words. And my father, they were just both very confident, and I would see the work that they were doing. My father was in sales with the Union Pacific Railroad for a very long time,
Wow.
always in logistics and always in sales and management that way. My mother was in the school district for 35, 40 years as well. So I would see them doing their job and going in and coming home and talking about it. And I would see them, how my mother would touch people's lives when she was teaching people. So I think it's crazy now that I'm having something to say about some students that are coming to Full Sail now. So I think it does come full circle, but the words were always, I love you. I'm proud of you. That's what would keep me going and to help me stay confident, because I think when I was younger, I was pretty shy. I probably had some confidence issues when I was younger. I was nervous about a lot of stuff, about
Sure.
talking to people and things like that, which I think is so natural. Um, and I think they just put me in the position, with sports or whatever it was, to keep pushing, to keep trying different things, and keep focusing on myself to help myself grow, and help my confidence grow as well. I think that's so important. Yeah.
That confidence is seen, and it just seems so natural that as a course director at the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting and Full Sail University, you are able to contribute so much of that knowledge and so much of that priceless information that you have upon your students. And as you're teaching in those settings, Eric, how much importance do you place on getting outside of your own mind and getting inside the mind of your students?
Oh, that's a good question. So I'm still trying to figure a lot of that out, I think, every day. I I'm pretty vulnerable with them, and I want to show them vulnerability, let them know that I'm here to help them, but also understand that they're nervous as well, that maybe this is the first time they're away from home. This is the first time that they're in college, and they have these, Full Sail, the school we're at is it's a 2 or 3 year program. So it's quick, it's fast, and we throw everything at them. But I get them first in the program, them the first class, which I enjoy because I can see them at the beginning, set some expectations with them. We can teach them the hard skills about how to be on camera, how to use a camera, how to edit and do all the different things, and how to put a show together, which we do, which I love doing. But I want to teach them more about the teamwork it takes, being respectful, being kind, being professional, and those things. But I know they're coming from a completely different area that I am. So I like to make it an interactive class, talk to them, ask them questions about their weekend, talk about sports with them, just get them involved and let them know, hey, we're all trying to figure this out here, right? And it's okay even that at my age or your age, we're still trying to figure it out. But you have someone that cares for you. You have someone that wants your success, and you're going to get everything out of this program that you put into it. And we see them, I can see them grow throughout their 2 or 3 years with us. It's amazing. I'll have somebody, students, both campus and online students, and then I see them grow throughout the whole process. I don't know who they are 4 months after they're with me. They're just growing, and I think
Wow.
that's because of their age. They're of course going to grow at that age, but they're just learning from people that have done it, and we want them to know that they're supported.
You give
So
them
that's
you give them the tools, obviously, Eric, but it's that sense of belief. You talked about the confidence. And I don't think that can be stated enough how important it is to maneuver this business. You have to have the confidence to weather through those challenges that come. You're a perfect example of how that confidence has been king for you. And whatever has been thrown your way, you have been able to maneuver. And with all those years at Golf Channel, still getting to work in golf as well must be such a treat for you as a director at PGA Tour Live. And so, as a teacher in the classroom, when I asked you about how you step outside of yourself when you think about the minds of your students when presenting your material, but when you're a director, how do you find that it's actually beneficial to get outside of your own mind and think about what the people on screen are thinking about, whether that's the golfer and the best way to take that shot, but sort of going into their minds and again, stepping outside of yourself and using that as a tool to make the broadcast better and more interesting.
I think as a director, what you are is a leader. You have to make sure that you know how to lead others. You can do that in any way that helps the production, right? I don't have any clue what is going through the mind of Rory McIlroy when he's standing over an approach from 140 yards and he needs to make birdie, right? Like I don't understand that mindset. Now I've been around it enough, and I've been around really great golf analysts and sat in the room and listened to them speak on a completely different level. So when I'm directing an analyst or a host at Golf Channel or PGA Tour Live, I can kind of understand what they're thinking. And a lot of times they're asking questions of me of how to present better or what cameras to look at, so I don't know if this answers your question, but I don't have a clue what it's like to be a professional golfer, but I have watched it enough. I have been around it enough. I have had conversations with professional golfers so many times in the last 23 years, 22 years, that when I'm directing, I can stay in my lane and I can make sure that the production is smooth, it's calm. I like to make sure that when I'm directing, there's a calmness about it. There's not going to be yelling and screaming. Not saying that that doesn't work for other directors. I wouldn't, everyone has their own way, but I think it's really important to calmness is going to build confidence in people and to lead that way. I'm rambling a little bit now, but
No,
if I haven't answered your question, please. But
you
yeah,
have
I think it's really important that you have to know what people need. I was just last week, I was in a team meeting at Full Sail, and we were talking about emotional intelligence. And I think that what that is a lot is self-awareness and understanding what people need, and everyone needs help in some way at times. And as a director and as a teacher or a mentor, I can be that person to help, and I take that seriously because if I can touch anybody's life, I'm really happy with that. But also, people are going to need help throughout a production, throughout a golf tournament, throughout something that maybe I'm blessed and lucky enough to have something to do with. So, always making sure that I'm available to help through is what I kind of the way I look at it.
the total team player. You see that in working with your talent, making sure they shine. You said calmness on a broadcast when covering golf. How much of that calmness do you see when you yourself are sitting over or standing over, I should say a 10-foot right to left breaking putt for a birdie on number 7?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's different when you're actually the one doing it, right? So I would teach my students, and I would tell anyone, anytime I've ever succeeded in anything in life, I've taken a breath and I've slowed it down. I think it's really important that, you know, when students are first starting out and they're nervous, their pace is all over the place. They're fast and they're nervous and everything like that. I want them to take a breath and to slow everything down, just as I would do the same thing. I'm not over, big money putts or anything like that. But if it's for $2 with a buddy over at Winter Park 9, then it's exciting to me. I want to be in those positions and I want to try to make that putt and prove that I can make that putt to myself more than anything else. So that's when I slow everything down. And I notice that if I'm directing a golf tournament or a pregame show or postgame show or instructionals or anything like that, which I've been lucky enough to do, when I slow it down, when I breathe, when I talk less, but I communicate more, that's when I can succeed, when I slow it down for sure.
Life in slow motion
Mm.
seems to be working out well outside of the broadcast realm because you're able to see more out there. Nothing goes past you. You're able to take in your environment better. And it's obviously very apparent how that pays off when it comes to a broadcast and also living in the present with your family and your children, and then what you're doing as a teacher as well. Eric Rutledge, I'd love to see that golf swing on slow motion one of these days. We'll have to see that. Course
Love
director,
to.
course director, Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting at Full Sail University, and director at PGA Tour Live. I'm Bryan Fenley, golf broadcaster. This was so fun, Eric. Thanks for taking us
Yeah.
into your life. And obviously, we went deep, which is what I like to do because it's the human side that really is something that connects with people. And your vulnerability was much appreciated, and your story is much to be appreciated because of how inspirational it is. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Brian. I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. Okay. Thank you.